Today we're going to change the water pump on the Jetta. It started leaking about 275. So here's my Jetta. There's my Jetta's coolant on the ground. That's the problem today. I pulled that out, ripped this plastic piece off. See where it's dripping right there? I dry that, it comes right back. So do all this at your own risk. I could be wrong about everything. So the way I did it is, I put the car on these blocks because it's what I have here. We're going to use this jack to lift the engine when we have to. The next thing we did was take the engine cover off. You just lift that off. I do have a piece of fender well that I took off the other day / ripped one tab off when I broke down in the AutoZone parking lot. So that's already off. You can see the little piece hanging down right here where I ripped it. We'll take that off and fix it. We're dripping coolant on our board. Right now I'm just going with the passenger side jacked up because I can fit under there, and I think we're pretty much going to be able to get away with doing it like that. Next you're going to disconnect the battery, 10mm. To remove the washer fluid bottle, that's going to be 10mm, and you might need a couple extensions to get to this bottom one. So the washer fluid bottle is going to have an electrical sensor at the top, and then you pull the hose off the bottom, and if you plug it with your finger you don't lose all your fluid. And then there's one more electrical connection at the back. So we got that out, we'll set that off to the side. So we're going to remove this wire here for the power steering reservoir, and then we'll remove the bolt under that to unbolt the power steering reservoir. Once you have the power steering fluid reservoir unbolted, we're going to take these two Phillips head screws that hold your coolant overflow tank. You slide up your AC line, then we'll take this 13mm bolt out down here that holds this black bracket to your engine mount on the passenger side. The next thing we're going to do, that's everything under the hood for right now, except the next step's going to be unbolting the engine mounts. But first we have to go underneath and remove the two 16mm bolts for the dog bone. So next we're going to unbolt the engine. That's two 16mm bolts. So one little trick I have for remembering is these are the two dog bone bolts. This one goes in the back of the car, this one goes in the front of the car. Back of the car, front of the car. So when I set them down, I put them like that. So I just started jacking the engine up. We can fit our finger in there now. And of course, on my car, we're gonna have to take this brace out. We're gonna hit that. Okay, so I went to the hardware store yesterday to get this bolt for the tensioner, but the threads don't go all the way up. He didn't have the right one, so he gave me this one, but it doesn't really take too much tension off the belt. Like, you could force the belt off, but I'm just gonna take the whole tensioner off, and then that way we have a little more room here anyways. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I broke one of the bolts free on the pulley, so I have to rotate the pulley, which led me to the tensioner. So I'm using my 12-point bit there. I just wedged that in there so the pulley doesn't rotate. I broke the second bolt. When I broke the first one loose, the Allen wrench went flying because I was using the wrench as the leverage trick. I broke the second one loose, cut my hand open. So be prepared, every time you break one loose, it's going to break loose. So you might have something like this where the pick bar is in there up against your body mount, not against that hose, and then we just got to slip a wrench on there. So we're going to try to get the shot. Keep the wrench lined up straight. Yep, see? It would have probably cut me on the right side of my hand on this clip right here. Yeah, that's the one that just dragged across the glove. But so the camera died. We got the charger now. Here's a little update of where we're at. So I have my 12.6mm triple square here. It was the same length as the rest of the set. The only bolt it would fit in was this top one. So we knocked it down a bunch, and we should have plenty of clearance now. Make sure it's in there good. Then we're going to put a 13mm wrench on because there's still not enough room between the frame and there to put the 1/2-inch socket on it. 1/2 inch, 13, doesn't matter. Okay, so we have the old water pump out. One big tip of advice I'm going to give you guys is when you're pulling it out, you're going to have to spin the water pump so this part is at the top, and then you can get it to pull up out. This is the factory one, VW logo there. Plastic impeller, broken fin. That's got to be in there somewhere. It was leaking around this seal. It looks pretty bad, so I got some good news. I stuck my fingers in the hole digging around and pulled out the big broken piece. So That's the entire broken piece, no more mystery, nothing in my engine. So the new pump went in pretty easy. It only fits in one way, so like I said, you want to spin it so you can get the shallow side when you take it out, and then just keep rotating it. I use the URO brand parts just because it was the fastest to ship. So to tighten the pulley, I just put the pick bar in there, tighten it, rotate it around, do the next one. So here's an update of where we're at. We got the tensioner back on, removed our bolt, got the engine mounted again. Now we're going to crawl underneath, do the dog bone mount, and then once we do that, we'll put everything back in the engine bay. So I have my new Serpentine belt here. I've put 35 miles on it since I changed the water pump and put the old Serpentine belt back in. New one, 6 ribs. The old one, 5 ribs in some places. I think that other one just took off and isn't there anymore. On the bottom of it, there's only 4. So everything's back together now after the water pump change. I thought I had a coolant hose that was bulging, but I'm pretty sure it's an oil line now. So I'm going to go look that up, see if we can find it in oil lines. Because I thought it was this one, but that is not it. It's like that, but bigger. So we'll have to clean everything up again. We'll wipe that down, get it all clean under the engine bay once we do the coolant flush and get it back running on pink coolant. So that covers the water pump change and the Serpentine belt change on the 2003 Jetta GLI VR6.